He didn't destroy you, He revealed you. That pain you're carrying, that's not just heartbreak. That's a spotlight on the wound you've been ignoring for years. He didn't break you, He exposed the crack that was already there. You thought it was about Him leaving, but the real truth is, He triggered the healing you've delayed your entire life. And if you don't face it now, you'll keep calling pain love over and over again. Rejection isn't personal, it's a mirror. It doesn't define your worth, it reflects your wounds. You see, when someone walks away, you immediately assume it's because of something wrong with you. You weren't enough. You didn't do something right. You should have talked less, loved more, chased harder, or maybe just looked different. But let me challenge that thinking. What if the rejection wasn't about you, but what needed to be revealed within you? Because let's be real, people can't break what's whole. They can only expose what's already cracked. That breakup, that silence, that moment when he suddenly changed on you, it didn't happen to punish you. It happened to position you. To position you in front of the mirror you've been avoiding for too long. Not the mirror in your bathroom, the emotional mirror. The mirror you have seen in your head. To punish you and propel you off the emotional mirror you've been avoiding for too long. Not the mirror in your bathroom, the mirror you have seen in your head. To punish you and propel you off the emotional mirror, the one that shows you where your self-worth leaks, where your boundaries bend, and where your fears hide behind false love. Think about this. You ever tried to please someone so hard just to avoid being left? You ever stayed in a situation you knew wasn't right just to feel wanted? That's not love. That's survival mode. And rejection isn't the enemy, it's the reality check. It says, hey, look at this pattern. Look at why you're attracted to people who make you prove your value instead of see it. It's like this. Imagine someone gives you a broken mirror. You look into it every day and believe that's what you look like. Distorted, incomplete, cracked. You live with that version of yourself, forgetting that the problem isn't you, it's the mirror. That's what rejection does. It breaks the illusion. It smashes the broken mirror so you can finally see the truth. You are whole, but you've been accepting fragments. When someone rejects you, they're not showing you your weakness, they're revealing your blind spots. You start realizing the only reason their words could hurt so deep is because somewhere deep down, you secretly agreed. If he said you were too much, maybe it hit hard, because you've been shamed for your emotions before. If he called you hard to love, maybe it stung, because you've doubted your worth since childhood. It's not about the breakup, it's about the button it pushed. Let me give you a daily life example. You apply for a job you really want. You put your heart in the interview. You dress the part. You research the company. You show up with confidence. But then, they don't call back. And what happens? Most people say, I'm not good enough. I must have messed it up. But what if that rejection isn't about your capability, but compatibility? What if that company couldn't see your light because they weren't even looking for someone who shines like you? What if it's not a reflection of failure, but redirection? The same goes for relationships. Some people aren't rejecting you, they are removing themselves because your growth no longer matches their comfort zone. You're evolving and they're staying stagnant. That isn't rejection. That's protection. That's divine interruption. That's life stepping in and saying, this version of love isn't aligned with the version of you you're becoming. So when he walked away, it wasn't to break you. It was to show you you've been negotiating your worth with people who were never qualified to determine it. You've been settling for being chosen when you should have been claiming your place. Rejection isn't your enemy. It's the truth speaking louder than your fantasy. It's the moment you stop begging for love and start becoming the love you've been searching for. It's the mirror that doesn't lie, only reflects. And what you do with that reflection is the beginning of your healing. He triggered what you never processed. That's the part that hits the hardest, isn't it? It wasn't just what he said or what he did or how he walked away. It was what it reminded you of. It was the emotional flood that came out of nowhere and drowned you in feelings you didn't even know were still alive. He didn't just ghost you. He opened an old wound. He didn't just cheat. He triggered every moment you ever felt unchosen. He didn't just yell. He echoed the voice of someone from your past who told you your feelings didn't matter. That's the part we rarely talk about. We point fingers at what he did, and yes, he might have been wrong, immature, or selfish. But why did it affect you that deeply? Why did one man's actions shake the core of your soul like an earthquake? The truth is, he activated pain that was already in you. He became the match, but the fuel was stored inside long before he arrived. Imagine this. Someone taps you gently on the shoulder, but you scream in pain. Not because the tap was violent, but because there was a deep, untreated wound there. That's how emotional triggers work. On the surface, it looks like he's the problem, but in reality, he's revealing the pain that's been buried under layers of pretending, pleasing, and surviving. Maybe you were abandoned emotionally as a child. And when he stopped texting, it wasn't just a missed message. It was the same silence you felt when someone who should have loved you simply didn't show up. Maybe you were always made to feel like you were too much, too sensitive, too dramatic, too emotional. And when he said, "You're overreacting," he wasn't just being dismissive. He was validating the belief that your emotions are a burden. But here's the thing. He didn't plant that belief. He just uncovered it. That's the power of unhealed trauma. It doesn't vanish. It waits. It waits until the right person, the right trigger, the right moment, then it explodes. And the explosion isn't him. It's all the years you stayed silent, all the boundaries you never set, all the moments you tolerated what broke you and called it love. Let me give you a real life example. You ever meet someone who's terrified of speaking up at work? Every time their boss raises their voice, they shrink. They apologize even when they're right. And people say, "Why are you so sensitive?" But they don't realize that person grew up in a home where raising your voice meant danger, where disagreement meant rejection. So now, every small correction feels like an attack. The boss isn't the enemy. The unhealed past is. The same happens in relationships. You're not crying just because he left. You're crying because deep down you believed people always leave. You're not angry just because he lied. You're angry because you've always been lied to. And this time, you thought it would be different. You're not broken just because of him. You're broken because you were already cracked and he was just the one who stepped on the pieces. And that's where your healing begins. Not by erasing him, but by facing the parts of you he unintentionally exposed. That's why it's said, he didn't hurt you. He showed you where you still hurt. This is your moment. Not to numb it, not to chase the next distraction, but to finally look inward and ask, What have I never allowed myself to process? Because until you heal that, you'll keep mistaking triggers for truths and patterns for people. Until you process the pain, you'll continue calling trauma love and silence peace. And healing won't begin when someone new treats you right. It will begin when you stop allowing the past to speak louder than your present. You were attracted to what was familiar, not what was healthy. And that's a truth many people will spend their whole lives denying. But deep down, you know it. You weren't drawn to him because he was good for you. You were drawn to him because his chaos felt like home. His distance reminded you of the emotional unavailability you grew up around. His inconsistency mirrored the love you had to earn in your past. So when it came in small pieces, when it was conditional, when it came with confusion, it felt real to you. But real doesn't always mean right. We don't fall for people based on logic. We fall for them based on emotional memory, on the unspoken, unprocessed experiences that sit buried in the subconscious. It's not just about who he is. It's about who he reminds you of. That's the real trap. We think we're choosing love, but many times we're choosing patterns disguised as passion. You ever notice how the things that hurt you also make you chase harder? How the one who ignores you makes you obsessed? The one who gives you just enough, a sweet message here, a romantic gesture there, followed by silence and withdrawal, becomes the one you can't stop thinking about? Why? Because inconsistency feels like love, when love was inconsistent growing up. Let me give you a life example. Imagine a child who grows up in a home where love is earned through achievement. Every time she gets good grades or acts perfect, she receives affection. But when she's just being herself, raw, vulnerable, emotional, she's met with criticism or silence. Fast forward to adulthood. That same child, now a woman, meets a man who only praises her when she performs, when she looks good, when she plays the cool girl, when she doesn't ask for too much. And what does she do? She chases his validation like it's oxygen. Not because he's special, but because he activates her old wound. She isn't in love, she's in familiarity. And this is where the most dangerous trap lies. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar peace. You meet a healthy man who calls when he says he will, who wants to understand you, who doesn't make you guess. And what do you feel? Bored, confused, disconnected, not because he lacks something, but because you don't know what to do with safety. You've mistaken anxiety for attraction. You've confused tension with chemistry. You've associated uncertainty with love. And now, stability feels suspicious. It's not your fault. The nervous system remembers. The body keeps score. When your earliest versions of love were laced with unpredictability, your subconscious tells you, this is what love looks like. So when you meet someone toxic, it doesn't throw up red flags, it waves you in. But here's the truth. What feels safe isn't always what's healthy. And what feels boring isn't always bad. Sometimes it's peace, knocking on your door, waiting to be let in. The problem is you've been so conditioned to equate struggle with value that ease feels fake. You keep saying you want love, but what you really crave is healing. Because until you heal what's familiar, you'll keep falling for people who make you fight for what should be freely given. You'll keep confusing emotional intensity with emotional intimacy. And every heartbreak won't be about him. It will be another reflection of the war happening inside you. When you finally recognize that you were drawn to patterns, not purpose, when you stop romanticizing the pain that looks like your past, that's when you'll open space for something real, not chaotic, not performative, not built on fear of abandonment, but real, nourishing, healthy love. The kind that doesn't trigger your trauma. It teaches you trust. Stop asking why me. Ask what in me. Because the moment you change that one question, you shift from being a victim of your circumstances to being the author of your healing. Why me keeps you stuck in pain. It keeps you replaying the betrayal, the heartbreak, the confusion. It makes you believe that life, people, or even love is out to get you. But what in me opens the door to transformation. It doesn't ask for pity. It demands clarity. When he ghosted you, you probably cried out, "Why me? What did I do to deserve this?" But what if the better question is, what in me was okay with breadcrumbs and still called it love? Why me? What did I do to deserve this? But what if the better question is, what in me was okay with breadcrumbs and still called it love? When he blamed you for everything going wrong, you asked, why does he treat me like I am the problem? But what if the more powerful question is, what in me keeps tolerating blame just to avoid being alone? Asking what in me doesn't mean you caused your pain. It means you're taking ownership of what needs to be healed inside of you so you can break the pattern. Because here's the truth. Pain repeats until it teaches. You don't break cycles by hoping someone else treats you better. You break cycles by understanding what within you keeps allowing less than you deserve. Let me give you a real life example. A woman keeps finding herself in the same relationship, different faces, same wounds. Each man is emotionally unavailable. Each one starts out strong, then fades. And every time it ends, she cries, "Why do men always leave me?" But one day, someone challenges her. What in you is attracting the emotionally unavailable? That one question unlocks everything. She realizes she fears vulnerability. Deep down, she believes love will abandon her. So she subconsciously chooses partners who confirm that belief. That's not weakness. That's programming. And we all have it. Childhood taught us what love looks like, feels like, how much we're allowed to receive. If you grew up watching love equals struggle, you'll chase it where it hurts. If you watched your parents walk away instead of work through things, you'll expect everyone to leave. And without even knowing it, your why me keeps you in a loop, same pain, different disguise. But when you ask, what in me, you reclaim your power. You realize it's not about being unlucky in love. It's about the unhealed wounds you've been carrying like a shadow. Maybe what in me needs to stop confusing silence with safety. Maybe what in me needs to learn that love doesn't have to be earned. Maybe what in me needs to stop seeking validation from people who can't even validate themselves. This is where the breakthrough happens. You stop chasing apologies and start building boundaries. You stop begging for closure and start giving yourself clarity. You stop crying over people who left and start asking why you let them stay so long. People will always mirror back to you what you believe about yourself. If you think you're not enough, you'll attract those who treat you that way. If you believe you're hard to love, you'll tolerate people who make you feel like a burden. That's why healing isn't optional. It's survival. Because until you fix what's within you, you'll keep looking outside of you for someone to fix it. Why me is powerless. What in me is powerful. One keeps you asking, the other keeps you awakening. And the moment you stop searching for reasons outside yourself and start uncovering the roots within, you stop repeating the pain and start rewriting the story. You weren't meant to be destroyed. You were meant to rise. That heartbreak didn't come to end you. That betrayal wasn't your finish line. That moment where you felt like everything was crashing down around you, it wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your rebirth. You see, some things have to break down so better things can break through. The pain didn't come to punish you. It came to prepare you. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it felt unfair. Yes, you didn't see it coming. But the fire wasn't meant to consume you. It was meant to burn away what was never meant for you in the first place. You think you're buried, but really, you've been planted. And what do seeds do when they're planted? They grow. They bloom. They break the surface stronger, bolder, more rooted than ever before. That man who walked away, he didn't take your worth with him. That person who manipulated you, they didn't rob you of your light, that season of suffering. It didn't shatter your purpose. It simply revealed the strength you forgot you had. Because let's be honest, you didn't know how powerful you were until you were forced to fight battles you never asked for. You didn't know your resilience until you had to keep moving with a broken heart and a silent scream. And you didn't know your voice until you were done swallowing your pain just to keep someone else comfortable. You weren't meant to be destroyed. You were meant to rise. And not just rise quietly, rise loudly, rise unapologetically, rise knowing that your story will be someone else's survival guide. You didn't just survive that heartbreak. You outgrew it. You outgrew people who couldn't meet you in your wholeness. You outgrew the version of yourself that begged for love, that didn't nourish your soul. And sometimes it takes being torn apart to finally see who you were always meant to become. Let me give you an example that'll hit deep. Imagine a woman who spent 10 years in a relationship with someone who constantly dimmed her light. He told her she was too emotional, too dramatic, too ambitious, too much. And for years she believed him. She shrunk herself, she silenced her dreams, she tiptoed through life just to be loved. And then one day, he leaves. Out of nowhere, no explanation, just gone. She breaks, or so she thinks. But in that silence, something incredible begins. She starts journaling again. She signs up for therapy. She builds the business she put off for years. She starts waking up early, not for him, but for her. And one day she looks in the mirror and doesn't see a broken woman anymore. She sees a queen who took her pain and turned it into purpose. He thought he broke her, but what he did, unknowingly, was set her free. That's what rising looks like. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's in the small things. Choosing not to text him back. Choosing to block toxicity. Choosing peace over chaos. That's a rise. That's something that lasts a while longer time. That's a rise. Every time you choose you, you rise. Every time you stop chasing love and start becoming it, you rise. Every time you look at your scars and say, that didn't destroy me, you rise. You weren't meant to crumble. You were meant to climb. You weren't born to suffer in silence. You were born to speak truth with power. Life didn't put you through that storm just to see you drown. It gave you waves so you could learn to swim, so you could learn to fly, So you could learn to walk into rooms with your head high and your heart whole. Healing isn't becoming cold. It's becoming clear. It's not about shutting down your heart, building walls, or pretending you don't care. It's about finally understanding who's worth your energy, who's worth your vulnerability, and who never deserved access to your soul in the first place. Coldness is a trauma response. Clarity is a healed choice. You weren't made to be numb. You were made to be wise. And wisdom doesn't stop you from loving. It teaches you how to love right. After heartbreak, most people say, I'll never let anyone in again. I'll never love again. But that's not healing. That's fear in disguise. That's the wound talking, not the warrior within you. Real healing doesn't mean you stop trusting. It means you start discerning. It means you start discerning. It means you start discerning. Flags for passion. You stop calling inconsistency mystery. You stop holding on to potential and start honoring reality. There's a difference between guarding your heart and closing it. Healing teaches you how to protect your peace without building prison walls around your joy. It teaches you how to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Because clarity isn't cold, it's courageous. The clarity and commitment will create a lot more peace in your life than fear says blank and called your name. Look in my eyes. It's courageous. Understanding your spiritual desire. It's courageousness. Because think of it like this. When your vision was blurry, you couldn't see who people truly were. You mistook manipulation for love. You called neglect space. You excused behavior because you didn't want to face the truth. But healing sharpens your vision. It gives you new lenses. Now, you don't second guess the things that used to confuse you, because clarity is confidence, and clarity is peace. Let's take a real life example. A woman used to be the one who always gave more love, more chances, more forgiveness. She bent until she broke. She kept giving even when it drained her soul. Then she went through a season of deep reflection, therapy, solitude, self-love. And now, she still gives, but not to just anyone. She gives to people who give back. She loves, but no longer needs to prove her love to feel worthy. That's not cold. That's clear. Clarity looks like choosing yourself, not because you hate them, but because you finally love you. It looks like walking away from someone who doesn't see your value, not because you want to hurt them, but because you refuse to shrink anymore. It looks like not answering texts from people who ghosted you, not to be petty, but because your peace no longer has a price tag. The old you tolerated confusion, thinking that's just how love works. The healed you knows that love doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't make you beg for effort. It doesn't silence your voice or dim your fire. Healing removes the fog so you can see clearly, not just others but yourself. You're not bitter, you're just awake. You're not heartless, you're just aware. You're not too hard to love. You've just stopped accepting half love from people who don't even love themselves. That's clarity. That's healing. And the best part? The love you attract when you're clear is a love that honors the healed version of you. The one that doesn't fear solitude. The one that doesn't beg to be chosen. The one that knows real love starts with you being real with yourself. Healing doesn't make you cold. It makes you unshakable, unapologetic, unavailable to anything less than truth, peace, and purpose. You are not alone. That's the clarity, the purpose that a person takes you to. You are not alone. That's the clarity, the purpose that a person takes you to. You are not alone. Unapologetic, unavailable to anything less than truth. You didn't lose yourself, you found your beginning. This wasn't the end of your story. It was the chapter where you finally stopped surviving and started rising. Because you see, he didn't break you, he revealed you. He didn't ruin your life, he woke you up to it. And maybe, just maybe, the pain wasn't meant to destroy you. It was the alarm clock that rang when your soul had slept too long in places it never belonged. You've cried enough. You've doubted yourself enough. You've questioned your worth enough. Now it's time to step into your healing, like the warrior you were born to be. Because true power isn't found in pretending nothing happened. It's found in saying, yes, I was broken, but I'm still here. I've got scars, but they're proof I healed. And healing doesn't mean you'll never hurt again. It means that pain will never control you the same way again. Sometimes you build up too much and then one day you're too much back then. You fall prey to your main fears. You call people poos and make game. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them assume you're bitter just because you stopped entertaining bare minimum love. Let them think you changed. Because you did. You outgrew the conversations that went nowhere. You outgrew chasing people who ran from themselves. You outgrew waiting for someone to choose you when you finally chose yourself. That's not bitterness. That's elevation. That's not coldness. That's clarity. And yes, it hurt. It broke you open in ways you never expected. But what shattered wasn't your spirit, it was your illusion. You were never too emotional. You were never too much. You were never too complicated. You were just too real for someone still hiding from themselves. And now you know. Being real doesn't mean shrinking, silencing, or settling. It means standing tall in your truth, even when the world tells you to dim your light. Never forget this. Rejection isn't always a loss. It's redirection. Sometimes God removes what you think you want to make room for what your soul actually needs. And when you look back at the pain, you won't see devastation. You'll see deliverance. You'll see the moment you stopped asking, why doesn't he love me? And started asking, why don't I love me enough to walk away? That's growth. That's divine alignment. You'll see the growth in us looks different. You'll see the secret answer. You didn't find it inside. You made it go away. That's the growth. That's divine alignment. That's not being sold. That's a simple shift. You divine listen. It's not being cut. That's healing. You were never meant to beg. You were never meant to chase. You were never meant to break yourself to fit into spaces that were too small for your soul. You were meant to rise, to heal loudly, to love intentionally, to glow unapologetically. The old you tolerated confusion because you thought that was love. The new you walks in peace because you know what love really is. It's clear, it's kind, it's consistent, and it's never earned through suffering. Don't let a broken person convince you that your heart was the problem. Don't let a temporary chapter convince you that your story is over. The woman you're becoming, she's powerful not because life was easy, but because she fought for herself when no one else did. Because she turned breakdowns into breakthroughs. Because she didn't stay bitter. She chose to be better. So when you stand in front of your future, hold your head high. You don't carry shame, you carry lessons. You don't carry fear, you carry wisdom. And when love finds you again, and it will, it'll meet the healed version of you. The one who doesn't beg. The one who doesn't settle. The one who knows, I was never too much. I was just never meant to stay small. As Maya Angelou once said, you may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. And remember the words of Steve Maraboli? The truth is, unless you let go, unless you forgive yourself, unless you forgive the situation, unless you realize the situation is over, you cannot move forward. You didn't come this far just to feel pain. You came this far to transform from it. Rise like you were born to, heal like your life depends on it, and love yourself like you've never been hurt. Because that's the real comeback.